Hey, friends-in-law. This is your girl Malika, and I'm making this quick video today because I'm actually getting a cold. And before I sound bad, I wanted to show you guys exactly how to do a records request, starting from an example of a records request from our friend-in-law, Alphonse. Love him or hate him, he makes some amazing paperwork. So I know that every time we discuss record requests, people who have had any sort of education in the law space presume or think about what's known as a Freedom of Information Act records request. And they often ask if, when we say records request, if we're talking about a FOIA, or that's the nickname for Freedom of Information Act. And I'm here to clarify that no, we're not talking necessarily about a Freedom of Information Act records request, because that is for general information about whatever the state might have on a topic. And we're looking for very specific information about ourselves and about our property. So when you just do a FOIA, they do not give personal private information. Okay. What you're looking for is personal and private information that should exist about yourself and your property, if in fact they have a situs or a legal relationship with yourself and with your property. So let me go ahead and show you what I consider to be a great records request, and why I consider it to be a great records request, and what I hope everyone takes away from it is knowledge of how to properly ask for the records that you might require for whatever the purpose is that you are requiring it for. What we are noticing is that we can build a case for either defense or to prosecute based on the results of a records request. And that's what makes it so powerful. So I wanted to show here where it's under, and I mentioned this, if there's so many hashtag record requests now that you literally have to hashtag open records or open records request or right to know. So you can hashtag right to know and you'll see the post that I made on it. But this is what you're looking for. So here in Pennsylvania, for example, they actually call it Office of Open Records, standard right to know law records request form. So this is what you're looking for: right to know law or open records law. That's what you're looking for in your state. It's great to see some states have a request form, but of course you don't have to use it. You just have to know that it exists, and you have to make sure that your information gets to the same office that it needs to go to so that they can give you the record that you require. So good communication is vital in the right to know law process. Complete this form thoroughly and retain a copy. It may be required if an appeal is filed. You have 15 business days to appeal after a request is denied or deemed denied. Okay, so submitted to agency. This is the agency is submitted to. This is a municipal corporation. So if you are either using the one from Pennsylvania or any other state, or you're making up your own, you want to make sure that it goes to the right office that should have the record. So this is the office it went to. This is, of course, the day. And they've submitted it by fax, which is cool because it means that you can, use any of the other ones. That's the name, their mailing address, and then it says see attached records request, which is also great because it means you don't have to try to fit your records requests all in there. So even though this is partially filled out, he still said see attached. And so let's see what's attached. So he titles it Pennsylvania right to know records request. You will also title it whatever the state, either right to know or open records law request. Okay. Let's see, dear sir or ma'am, because of course they don't know who you're talking to, and it's related to request for validation of municipal claims. I love it. Request for validation. Okay. So this is a formal records request pursuant to the Pennsylvania right to know law, requesting inspection and or copies of the following public records and or information. Information Two is deemed as a formal records request. He gives a definition of the term record and he cites where it's coming from. So you can tell he did his homework. Introduction. On this day, the municipal corporation, by and through its law firm or a law firm, we don't know if it's their own, right? Filed the following municipal claims against himself or against his properties, okay? Against his properties. And he says what they're known as. If yours is a different issue, then just put the right thing in there. If it's against yourself and not your properties, then it's just against yourself. All right. Let's see what else. All three alleged claims were filed with the county of Delaware. So you, of course, put where it was, and they usually tell you what is the nature of the property. Here they're calling it in rem. So funny. He puts it in quotations because, of course, for those who have taken any of our Beat the Bar classes or our private ministerial action classes, you understand why in rem is a complete joke. And it's the bottom line is that it has to be the property of the county for it to be considered in rem. And if it's property of the county, then why would they be talking to you if you're not an agent of the county, right? If it's your property, why would they be talking to you? Okay, so records request 1, see how he titled it? Records request 1, records request 2, records request 3. You don't have to do it exactly like this, but you can just do bullet points or however, okay? So he cites some law and then he asks for the record. I highly recommend doing this. Now, it's optional whether you wish to type everything out as like this, or if you just wish to reference the section of the law, like in reference to or pursuant to insert section of law, I'm asking you to provide this record, or like he did, he wrote the whole thing out or copy pasted, I know. So it says, while restricted to taxation of property having a taxable status within the territorial jurisdiction of the state, the legislature may extend taxation to all persons and to all property, real or personal, within its jurisdiction. Isn't that great? To be within the jurisdiction, we all know, again, it goes back to being in rem. You has to be owned by. So the power to tax property, blah, 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 because that's what he's talking about. And he includes the footnotes. Maybe they're relevant. And then after citing the statute, which is the important part, that's why I didn't continue to read, he asked for the record. Provide the legal and lawfully promulgated records the borough, the municipal corporation, relied on that evidence there's a taxable status. That's why he mentioned this part up here. Now, this is great for even if you're just building your case for you to get rid of the property tax. This is definitely what I would use. I would literally go back and post something similar to this and asking for this exact question. Okay, the taxable status, the record the borough relied upon to evidence there was a taxable status, or the evidence that whoever the agency relied upon that I gave consent to be sued or whatever. Okay, so records request number 2, again, he does the same thing, citing the statute, asking the question for the record. Provide the legally and lawfully promulgated records the borough municipal corporation relied upon that evidences the municipal corporation has ownership interest rights in the properties that he listed there. Why? Because in order for you to have an in rem action, like I mentioned, you got to show that you owned it, okay? That you have an ownership interest or rights. That's the only way the state or county can claim in rem. So number 3, again, he does the same thing. Cites the statute, and then he asks for the record. Provide the legal and lawfully promulgated record that the municipal corporation relied upon that evidences the owner in absolute of the properties known as, okay, himself as the owner in absolute. So he's asking for that. Okay, request number 4. He does not cite the record here, but he does ask for the legally and lawfully promulgated record that the municipal corporation relied upon as evidence of a debt of any kind whatsoever owed to the borough. This might be difficult for them to answer, but I hope you guys are using your minds to already modify what's being asked here for your situation. Records request number 5, he again cites a statute and provide the legally, lawfully promulgated record that the municipal corporation relied upon that evidences that he himself, the owner, absolute of the property, okay, so breached the law. Like, okay, so he used the property to breach the law, because that's that. Okay, so look at let's read this. A proceeding in rem is in effect a proceeding against the owner as well as a proceeding against the goods, for it is his breach of the law which has to be proven to establish the forfeiture. I'm glad he used this because this is again relevant to my particular case, because they did an in rem or attempt to do an in rem action on our property as well, which here it's saying that you have to use your property, okay? You have to use the property which they're trying to forfeit, whether it be a car, a house, a boat. You have to use it in order to breach the law. Then that's why he's phrasing it like that. Provide legally and lawfully promulgated records that the municipal corporation relied upon to say that the defendant is the owner and used the property to breach the law. Okay, because that's what it is. Or it is his breach of the law. Okay, so this is a good one for a lot of us that are dealing with anything having to do with property or property tax. Number 6, provide legal. Okay, so he does not cite the law here, but he just asks for the record. Provide the legal and lawfully promulgated records that the municipal corporation relied upon that evidences Pennsylvania statutes, blah, 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 applies directly to the man and or his property. So this, of course, is the record. For example, you would ask the agency, whatever agency is coming after you, DHS, the county, the city policy officers, or whatever, you'll be asking whoever the record agent is for the evidence that insert whatever the statute is applies to yourself. If they're trying to do it against your car as well, applies to yourself and your car. Okay, that's what you would ask for. So see, request number 7, again, he does not cite a statute, but he asked for the record to show that the ordinances and resolutions are applicable to himself or to his properties. I mean, he keeps saying it again, right? Like the name is probably, but it's easy to copy paste those things so you're not just typing it out over and over again. I probably wouldn't be so redundant, but he's being very thorough. Here he cites the case law and then asks for the record. So let's see what this case law says. When a state exercises sovereign power to create a private corporation, that corporation becomes a citizen domiciled in the jurisdiction of its creator. It doesn't seem like it should have to be said, but apparently it does. There it must dwell. The dominion of the state over its creature is complete, in accordance with the ordinary recognition of the role of mobilia sequitur personam to determine the taxable status of a tangible, of an intangible personality. The presumption is that such property is taxable by the state of the corporation's origin. Okay, so you have to have some type of creation of a corporation under the laws of the state that makes it able to have jurisdiction. Okay, so he cites the case and then he asks for the record. The record that they relied upon that evidences that himself and his properties, commonly known as blah, 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 are subjects of taxation, and that himself is a taxpayer pursuant to the state tax codes. What else? Request number 9, he does a similar thing where he quotes and includes the footnotes of a statute and then asks to provide legally lawfully promulgated record that evidences that himself is an inhabitant, resident, citizen, or member of the borough, municipal corporation. Now, this is something that's kind of a big deal, this record request number 9. Again, very similar to the one I paused on before. This is something that is relevant to everyone. So let's read this. A municipal corporation must have both territory and inhabitants. Okay, this is from Am Jurisprudence, because I remember reading this myself. The corporation consists of both territory and inhabitants. Both are indispensable to its existence. The inhabitants of the territory include within its political organization are members of the corporation. Okay, so he asks to provide the legally and lawfully promulgated records that he himself is an inhabitant, resident, citizen, or member of the municipal corporation. This is the only way that they can invite you into court, guys. This is the only way. The only way. You got to be a member of that municipal corporation or a member of that corporation, period. That agency. Okay, number 10 says provide a record of who exactly from the municipal corporation directed and authorized this law office to file a municipal claim against the properties. This is, again, another useful question for when they're trying to invite us to court through any agent. You know, this is like speaking to the disqualification of the attorneys, the judges, clerks, that, you know, this is the same issue, okay? Because we want them to provide the record of exactly who from whatever the fictitious organization is directed and authorized the alleged authorized attorney to file a claim, whether it be municipal, allegedly judicial, administrative, criminal. Who authorized it, especially if there's no injured party, especially if it's a criminal complaint, to file a criminal complaint against oneself and there's no injured party, right? Who did it? Who from the organization? If it's civil, we need the board of directors. Okay, so I'm not going to go too much into this, but I want you guys to see this is a very thorough records request. I like the idea of citing any relevant statute and then asking for the record so they could see why you're asking for the record, and they can better see perhaps what record it is that they should be looking for based on the fact that you put the statute in there that your request is based upon. So this is a lot in one records request, but it seems to me upon review that most of them are necessary and relevant. Most of us will not need 13 records requests. We are doing a very poor job, most of us, doing even 2 or 3 records. But as you see, once you get the formula down and you can show that it's relevant, you can just go ahead and copy paste all of the questions that you have in there. And that's the end of it. So 6 pages of records, and then he has a conclusion. It says, please note the fact that the municipal corporation has already filed cases, so none of what is requested here requires any legal research whatsoever by the municipal corporation, as all requested records and information are threshold issues. This is very important to say, because the delegation of authority from the Secretary of Treasury and or the Secretary of Commerce and or the United States District Attorney or the State District Attorney for the clerk to act, for the judge to act, for the other side attorney to bring a claim against you are threshold issues. They are issues that speak to the jurisdiction of the court. To hear the case, to institute the case, to hear the case, and to adjudicate the case. They're threshold issues. And this is why our records requests are so necessary and so very powerful, because if you get them to admit on paper that they have no records to support their authority, check out what he says. You should be aware that sending unsubstantiated claims and demands for payment of monetary value through the United States Postal Service might constitute a mail fraud under this section and theft by extortion under this section. You may wish to consult a competent legal advisor before your next communication with himself. Should you deny this request or any part of the request, please state in writing the basis for the denial, including exact statutory citation authorizing the denial. Because of course he's going to attack that, right? If they have any. So he's had great results with this. I actually read a case that he not only used the results of the records request, but he either quoted or had the agent that answered the record request to show up in court and testify that she did not find any records to show that the statutes were applicable to himself. And I think that was a beautiful move and the clincher. So I hope this video is helpful. These documents are available freely on Alphonse's Telegram group, but if anybody requests it, maybe I might make a folder just called Alphonse and just upload all the stuff that I've downloaded, or maybe I'll upload it onto a Google Doc so it can be accessible to anybody who wants an invite. I think that's what I might do. I might make it a Google Doc. So until the next video, peace.